The topic this morning is the grace of the mind. And this is all based on one verse that we find Sri Ramakrishna mentioned several times in the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. And Swami Brahmananda, Thakur's spiritual son, was also very, very fond of this verse. Let me read it first. Guru Krishna Vaishnav Tina Doya Hole, Aka Doya Bine Jeeb Chare Khare Galo. Even if one has the grace of these three, the Guru, the Lord, and the devotees, the jiva, lacking the grace of the one, becomes nothing but dust and ashes. Then the explanation comes, the one is the mind. If the mind is conquered, the world can be conquered. All spiritual practice and disciplines are for that alone, the conquest of the mind. So Swami Brahmananda, in explaining this verse, he said to the young monks one day, "My boys, you have the grace of the Guru. You have the desire for spiritual knowledge. By receiving the Lord's name, you have received His grace, and you also have the society of the holy. Now you must strive to get the grace of your own minds. By gaining mastery over your own minds, you will, by its grace, realize the grace of God and the grace of the Guru." So this, of course, is a very fascinating concept. We think, grace of God, what else do we need? The grace of God means we have illumination, there's nothing else needed. This is placing this even above that if one lacks this grace of the mind, then it doesn't matter if we have all other types of advantages in spiritual life. If the mind is not our friend in working with us, then we have no one to rely on. So it really tremendously important concept that I wanted to go into a little bit today. What exactly do we mean by the grace of the mind? And what are the philosophical ramifications? I don't want to go into some deep philosophical type of talk, but are we different from the mind? We're talking about the mind as if it's a third person, that we need the grace of the mind. How do we understand exactly and who am I if I am different from the mind? So a little bit of that type of conversation. And then what are the practical implications for spiritual life? Now I want to start by talking about the grace of the Guru and the grace of God and Holy Company, because these are also extremely important. It's not that we only need the grace of the mind, we need the grace of all of these. The grace of the Guru, of course, we know. This is one of the greatest blessings in spiritual life. Any of us who have had that privilege, the great blessing of taking spiritual initiation from a God-realized Guru, very difficult to find, but one of great spiritual stature, one of great dedication and devotion and sincerity. This is enough to have that. That's a tremendous blessing. And we should all feel very grateful if we have that in our spiritual life. And this longing for God, mumukshutva, this longing for God, this is something that Thakur says is the most important thing, that this will cover all other difficulties and problems we have, that everything will get straight if we have that longing for God realization. So what then do we mean by the grace of God in this verse? If the grace of God is not enough, I don't think we mean the grace of God means that God can grant realization at any moment. It has to mean something else, something a little bit lower than that. And I think we can get some understanding from a very famous verse that we find at the beginning of Shankaracharya's Vivekachudamani, where he talks about the three very rare types of grace that we have. And we can see this grace of the Guru is there. Mahapurusha samsraya. This grace of the Guru is there. And this mumukshutva, this grace of the mind is there. What is the grace of God? We can say just manushatvam, the fact that we have this human birth, that we have all of the opportunities that come with this human birth, that we're born so close in time to the life of Sri Ramakrishna and Holy Mother that many of us knew or even were initiated by disciples of Holy Mother or disciples of the direct disciples of Sri Ramakrishna. So I will take all of this as being part of this idea of the grace of God. We've been blessed with all of these things, with this somehow to come to spiritual life, to have this desire to lead a spiritual life, that we can take all of this as the grace of God, this initial type of grace of God. And why do we say grace? Some may say, well, it's our good karma. We say grace because we feel that we don't deserve it, or that it's greater than what we've ever done to earn something like that. Not completely unmerited, but what we've given, the price we've paid, compared to what we've received. It's just, there's no comparison that we feel, and it's an inner feeling, of course, that we feel that what a great blessing it is to have all of these opportunities and advantages in our lives. Maybe a good family, a devoted family, good education, so many things. We can say, yes, by God's grace, we've been given all of these things. So we can say that we've been given that. We have our holy company. We have the devotees, the grace of the devotees. We have this community and this longing for God and everything. That still the mind is the difficulty. That if the mind doesn't cooperate, then we can't utilize all of these things. So this is one of the reasons why I stress this idea, and why Thakur does, is that we should never take it for granted. If we're blessed with a good functioning mind that is not always causing trouble for us, a mind that is cheerful, a mind that is happy and everything, it's a blessing. We can take this as a type of grace. So Sri Ramakrishna, he gave great emphasis. Not only this verse, there was another nice line he used to repeat, also part of from a song. It says, I have given you now the montur. Montur is a colloquial way of saying mantra. The Guru says to the disciple, I've been giving you the montur, now everything is montur. There's a play on words in Bengali, tormon. Now everything is your mind. I've given you the mantra, now everything is up to your mind. How will you be able to utilize that? So we have this idea of the grace of the mind. I think we can understand this in a few different ways. First obvious thing is the mind that cooperates with us. Now you'll notice everything is in a dualistic sense. There's me and there's my mind. I don't want to go into the philosophical idea, but this is a very easy way for us to understand it. That somehow this mind is good to us, it's kind to us, it's helping us. Sometimes we're fighting with the mind. The mind is trying to drag us lower. We're trying to go higher. Now, we can say it's the higher mind and the lower mind. We can understand it in different ways, but just from a very practical point of view, this is something that I think we all experience. The mind is a very mischievous type of thing. We want to think about God, we sit down to think about God, and the world intrudes. We start thinking about everything else, and we wonder why. I don't want to do it, but my mind is doing it. So somehow there's this disconnect between what I want to think about and what the mind wants to think about. And we find this very often at the time of meditation. And there'll be other times when, for some reason, we don't know why, we sit down and the mind is quiet. The mind is very peaceful, cheerful. We don't know why. It just seems to come of its own. So we give credit to the mind. This is the grace of the mind, somehow. So this is the nature of the mind. I don't want to get into other issues, but they're very serious problems of depression and memory loss and paranoia, all sorts of mental illness and everything that we pray doesn't happen to anybody. But we know that just as anything can happen to the body at any time, that God knows what can happen as we get older. We see this around us and we wonder with ourselves. And That's why it's good to pray. If we want to pray for ourselves, pray that we have a good, healthy mind. This sadbuddhi, we can pray. Thakur, give me the type of mind that will allow me to appreciate what I have and to realize something higher. So this is that kind of first idea of the mind, that we want a mind that will be our friend. This is captured very beautifully in many verses in Gita, that the mind is our best friend. It's also our worst enemy. That if the mind is controlled, then it'll be the most helpful thing in the world. And if not, it'll be like a foe, like an external foe. That we have to do battle with the mind all of the time. And this is just the nature of the mind. Swami Brahmananda, he stresses this idea. He says, just as the Ganges has its ebb and flow, so is there an ebb and flow in spiritual moods in the beginning. Of course, this beginning could be a long period. Yeah, we shouldn't think, well, I still have the ebbs and flows. Have I not done anything in spiritual life? No, this beginning period is a long period. Just as the Ganges has its ebb and flow, so is there an ebb and flow in spiritual moods in the beginning. But later, as you continue, there will come an even flow of the mind toward God. This is what we're striving for, of course. And for Swami Brahmananda to say that, we know that this is from his own experience, and we don't expect to have such an easy flow of thought towards God, but these are all ideals that we strive for. We always have to remember that if we can make a little progress along that line, we should feel very happy. But the mind will not always cooperate with us. So this is the nature of the mind, that we may be cheerful one day, another day we're gloomy. And we don't always know why. Sometimes it's the simplest little thing that we wake up, we're very happy, and just a little thing we see, somebody forgot to do this or somebody said that, and the mind changes. That is a question of oversensitivity. This mind, we may say ego problem, but really everything goes back to the mind. We may find even that tremendous faith in God, one day we wake up and it dries up. Or tremendous conviction regarding the nature of ultimate reality. And then one day we wake up and say, well, what have I been thinking of all of this? Where is evidence that God even exists? We see this even among some of the direct disciples of Sri Ramakrishna. They would pass through a little period where they would question the existence of God. So this is that fickle nature of the mind. And so for this reason, that when the mind is cooperating, acting as our friend, we feel it's a type of grace. And grace always comes with its corresponding attitude of gratitude. That we feel that what have we done to earn this, to deserve this? We feel a tremendous sense of gratitude that mind is functioning in a way that is very helpful for us, and things seem to be going smoothly in our spiritual life. So the sense of gratitude comes when this mind acts as our friend. Now, Sri Ramakrishna will say his mind can act as a guru, even Swami Brahmananda. It can, but that's a very advanced state. Now, the one other good thing about this is when the mind is not acting as our friend, we know that things will change. We shouldn't get too depressed. We shouldn't think that now I've lost everything. That the mind has its ups and downs, that it'll come back, that we have to be a little patient that way. Temporary downswing of the mind, it'll be followed by some upswing. So we have to have a little patience with regard to all of this. So this question arises, we keep talking about this mind as if we're something different from the mind. My mind. Who is this I that has this mind? Now, most of the time, it's really just the higher mind, we can say. It's, if we want to say that I'm really that higher self, that witnessing consciousness within, okay, we can look at it that way, or we can look at it as the higher mind, analyzing the lower mind. That we're doing its internal battle We're trying to control the mind with the mind itself. So this could be done because this is the way the mind works. It can split itself in two almost, so that we observe the mind with the mind, and we control the mind with the mind. So this is otherwise we're really lost. Otherwise we have to say that everything is just a question of our old samskaras and karma. There's nothing I can do about anything. No, we do have that power to observe the way the mind is functioning and to try to change this mind. So this is the mind doing battle with itself, higher mind versus the lower mind, our better instincts over our baser instincts, if we want to look at it that way. And we have ways of trying to decide what to do and what not to do. That we have this concept, Shreyas and Preyas, that the mind is always after Preyas, what is enjoyable, what is pleasant, what is easy. And this higher mind will say, no, there's something called Shreyas. This is what will lead to some greater type of joy even, but a greater sense of contentment and sense of dharma. We're doing the right thing and everything. So we have some guidelines at least that we can follow with regard to all of this. So what happens is that we try to reach that point where this lower mind is not controlling the higher mind is controlling the lower mind. And we observe it, we identify with that higher type of mind, and we find that we don't have to be subject to all of the whims and fancies and desires of this lower mind. Now, it's not that they won't keep coming. This lower mind doesn't give up so easily, but we can learn to just observe these things, to watch as these thoughts come up, these desires come up, these passions, this bouts of anger and jealousy and temper, all of these different things. We can observe these as belonging to this old mind. See, we can separate this, not just higher mind and lower mind, but old mind and new mind. This is the way I used to think. This is the way I used to live in the world. These were the standards and priorities that I used to have. I don't have them anymore, but this lower mind still does. And the lower mind, it's just like we have friends. They liked us when we went to parties with them. And we drink and dance and have fun and everything. And they keep saying, no, come back. Yeah, come back. We have to learn to say no. So this type of battle that takes place with this very fickle type of mind that we have. So if we learn to even just observe this lower mind, to recognize it, when these things come into the mind, say, I didn't invite them, I don't want them, I don't care for them, I don't identify with them anymore, they'll stop a little bit, they'll slow down. The lower mind will start to understand this isn't working. And maybe I should become friends with this higher mind. So gradually these things will start to take place. Sri Ramakrishna says, one of the signs of knowledge is no matter how many sorrows, afflictions, dangers, and obstacles one may be faced with, one's mind does not undergo any change. So again, this is that higher mind not reacting to all of these external things or even to what arises in this lower mind, to be the observer, to feel that I am something different and separate from that lower mind. So no matter how many sorrows, afflictions, dangers, and obstacles one may be faced with, one's mind does not undergo any change. It is like the blacksmith's anvil, which receives constant blows from the hammer and still remains unshaken. So these are all very positive things, but even in a very advanced state, this mind will play tricks on us. We have a very nice illustration of this in the life of a Holy Mother, that she, of course, was very regular in her spiritual practice. When she lived in the Dhabat, she would get up at 3 a.m. She would have to go in the dark to go to the Ganges side to wash herself and everything, and was very regular with her meditation. One morning she didn't feel very well, so she thought, let me sleep in a little bit longer. And then she found that the next day the mind was telling her the same thing. You did it yesterday, why not do it again? There's no harm. that you can keep doing that. And after 2 or 3 days, then Holy Mother said, and then I realized that this was a trick of my mind. This lower mind was trying to get me to just give up all of these good habits that I had developed. And she said, from that moment on, I vowed never to let that happen again. So of course, the Holy Mother likes Sri Ramakrishna. When things happen like that, we know it's for our benefit, an example for us. Swami Brahmananda said, the mind rebels against effort. See, another problem. What do we have except for effort? We have to use effort, but still, the mind rebels against effort. It always seeks ease and comfort. But if you wish to achieve anything, you must force it to struggle. That is the only way to make your mind steady. Should you give up meditation because the mind does not like it? Very often this question comes up. What do I do in those mornings when the mind is just not in the mood for meditation? Should I just give up? Should I get up? Should I read a book, do something else? And of course, sometimes we have to get up if the mind is really in such a dark mood. But the same thing will happen. The more we give in to the mind, the more it'll force its demands on us. So there'll be some who say, no, stick with it no matter what, at least for some time. And then if you have to get up and do something. So Swami Brahmananda, should you give up meditation because the mind does not like it? If you go on in that way, you can never learn to meditate. Regular war must be waged against the mind. To force the mind to obey you is the ideal of spiritual discipline. So how do we do this? One thing is just by recognizing the nature of the mind. This is what we're trying to do. To recognize the nature of the mind and not identify with it. See, we get all these guilty feelings. Why did I think this and that? If we disidentify with the mind and say these are just old remnants of old samskaras, that we can start to control the mind a little bit. We have a beautiful quote from Swami Vivekananda. We are slaves to our own and everybody else's mind. Whether we are good or bad, that makes no difference. We are led here and there because we cannot help ourselves. We say we think, we do, etc. It is not so. We think because we have to think. We act because we have to. We are slaves to ourselves and to others. Deep down in our subconscious mind are stored up all the thoughts and acts of the past, not only of this life, but of all other lives we have lived. This great boundless ocean of subjective mind is full of all the thoughts and actions of the past. Each one of these is striving to be recognized, pushing outward for expression, surging wave after wave out upon the objective mind, the conscious mind. These thoughts, the stored up energy, we take for natural desires and so on. It is because we do not raise their true origin. We obey them blindly, unquestioningly. And slavery, the most helpless kind of slavery, is the result, and we call ourselves free. Free. The mind uncontrolled and unguided will drag us down forever, rend us, kill us, and the mind controlled and guided will save us, free us. So it must be controlled. And psychology, that is Raja Yoga, teaches us how to do this. This is from Swamiji's Raja Yoga. So how do we try to control this restless mind? First thing, of course, is meditation. And one of the advantages we have in meditation is that we can be a little thoughtful, and we can observe the mind as if it's something outside of ourselves. We can identify with that witnessing consciousness, however we understand it, whether higher mind or whether the real self or God dwelling within. We can identify with that, and the less we identify with this mind, the less control it has over us. So this period of meditation is very helpful for us to watch the mind, to disidentify with the mind, and that will help to deprive the mind of its power over us. Then prayer. If prayer is a way of recognizing that we know everything isn't under our control, that we pray for some divine help. We may have this idea, of course, that it will come from deep from within, but still, it's a recognition that we can't do everything just through our own effort. So we can do this type of prayer that let this mind become my friend. Let me have that ability to let the mind dwell on you, on the Lord. So this is a very a helpful type of prayer, and it gives us that understanding that grace is always necessary, and that we have to learn to practice surrender also, that we can't do everything just through our own self-effort. And then this idea of discrimination, viveka, that constantly analyzing the mind. Is it telling me to do something that's really good for me, or is it deceiving me? Is it making me think that it's good for me and pulling me down? So the sense of discrimination is something very important. And talking to the mind, of course we do this internally. People will think we're crazy, but talking to the mind gives us this feeling that we are something different from this mind. Sri Ramakrishna would have very often speak in those terms. I said to my mind. We have so many beautiful songs that are addressed, oh my mind. So for Sri Ramakrishna, he would say, oh my mind, you have a desire for this. What would that be like? You think this would... So talking to his mind as if it's something separate from him. We read in the Gospel, once the idea came to me to put on a very expensive robe, embroidered with gold, and to smoke a silver hubble bubble. Mathur Babu sent me the new robe and the hubble bubble. I put on the robe. I also smoked the hubble bubble in various fashions. Sometimes I smoked it reclining this way, sometimes that way, sometimes with head up and sometimes with head down. Then I said to myself, oh mind, see, addressing the mind, oh mind, this is what they call smoking a silver hubble bubble. Immediately I renounced it. I kept the robe on my body a few minutes longer and then took it off. I began to trample it underfoot and spit on it, saying, so this is an expensive robe, but it only increases one's pride. So this is one way of feeling or a little separate from the mind by even talking to our mind. We have a beautiful song by Ram Prasad, oh mind, you do not know how to farm. Fallow lies the field of your life. If you had only worked it well, how rich a harvest you might reap. And we have a monocholo nijo niketoni. Oh, my mind, why do you wander in this strange land in strange garb and everything? So this idea of looking upon the mind as somehow a companion, sometimes our friend, sometimes our enemy, but looking upon ourselves as something separate from that. So gradually, through grace, this mind will start to cooperate with us and be our friend. Swami Brahmananda, he says, but know this, there's no greater guru than your own mind. When the mind has become purified by prayer and contemplation, it will direct you from within. Even in your daily duties, this inner guide will guide you until the goal is reached. This is the idea of the Antaryamin. This is present within all of us, but we don't listen. Or we ignore that little voice within. Even in your daily duties, this inner guru will guide you until the goal is reached. Have intense love for God, and the mind will always remain tranquil and pure. So this is that first idea. Let the mind become our friend. Look upon this mind as something that can be very helpful for us if we can develop a little detachment and all of that. The second, I will say, is a higher concept of what we mean by grace of the mind. And here, the term that we have in that song is daya, compassion. And now, I want to switch to the term prasada. This term prasada, a very beautiful, very rich term. We often think of it just as the food that we take after it's been offered in the shrine. But this prasada, it has several different types of meaning. It means grace. It means a type of clarity and pristine purity and quietness. We find this term in the Gita in several places, chapter 2, especially with the Stita Prajna, This idea that the mind will become serene, it'll become quiet, it'll be translucent, so we can see the reality shining through it. This is a state of grace, this state of grace of the mind. We have this very nice line in Gita when it talks about the sattvic happiness, that we get this phrase, Atma Buddhi Prasadajam. And Prasadajam, ja, it means born of. There's a result of this prasada. We can say here that mind that attains to that state of grace, that state of tranquility, of serenity, of purity, translucency, where it understands the real nature of the self, I am that. Atma Buddhi Prasadajam. The happiness that comes from that is a sattvic type of happiness. So this word prasada, we have prasanna. We very often apply it to the Divine Mother. That when the Mother is propitiated, and we pray to the Mother, and she's pleased with us. Prasanna Vadanam Devim. We talk about Holy Mother, we look at the face of Holy Mother, that she's pleased with us. Parasidama, we pray, yeah, please be gracious. Parasidamatar. This beautiful phrase. It comes from, I don't know if it's a good interpretation, but this root meaning to sit, and para, to sit towards us. Mother, turn your face towards me. Be gracious towards me. So this is a state of grace that really we can say is almost the grace of the mind, equivalent to illumination. When we attain that state of perfect peace and quietude. This is what the Gita says. There's no greater gain than this. We won't consider anything of any greater value than attaining to this type of grace of the mind, that calmness, that tranquility. We'll feel it's a gift that we've been given. So we see that we have different types of ideas. Now we have two ideas. First, this grace of the mind that is well disposed, that kind to us, our friend, and then this other type of mind that can attain to this state, a really meditative state, this state of perfect purity and quiet and tranquility and peace. It's very peaceful, this stita prajna type of state. And through that type of mind, we can understand it as samadhi, or we can understand it just as that mind which is raised to this perfect level of purity. That is the mind that can grant us this realization. We always have this issue, can God be realized through the mind? And Thakur always explains, not this ordinary type of mind. So Sri Ramakrishna says, yes, God is directly perceived by the mind, but not by this ordinary mind. It is the pure mind that perceives God, and at that time this ordinary mind does not function. A mind that has the slightest trace of attachment to the world cannot be called pure. When all the impurities of the mind are removed, you may call that mind or pure Atman. Then again he says, is it an easy thing to obtain the knowledge of Brahman? It is not possible unless the mind is annihilated. This is the ordinary mind. The Guru says, give me your mind and I shall give you knowledge. So Thakur used to say very often, pure mind and pure buddhi and pure Atman are one and the same. If we can make this mind and let it attain that state of grace, then it's one with his ultimate reality at that time. So another nice phrase from the Gita, buddhi grahyam atindriyam. That this highest type of reality, atindriyam, we can't realize it through the senses. We don't see God through these eyes or anything, but buddhi grahyam, this buddhi we can say is the mind in that state of grace, this higher mind, this pure mind. It can be realized, it can be grasped, it can be held, it can be accessed through that type of pure mind. Now I want to talk about a third and final state of grace of the mind that I will say is the grace of the mind of the jnani, or even we can say the vijnani. That not just in the state of samadhi, where the mind is perfectly still and calm and quiet, but to have that type of mind that can pierce this reality, that can see that indwelling presence of the divine within all the beings and within all things. To know that we're in the presence of this divine reality at all times, that this is also a type of state of grace. And so this is the understanding that the only difference between whether we feel that we're illumined souls and free, or whether we feel that we're bound, it's all a question of the mind. This is this idea we get from this Ashtavakra Samhita, that is liberation and bondage, these are all a question of the mind. Sri Ramakrishna says, it is all a question of the mind. Bondage and liberation are of the mind alone. The mind will take the color you dye it with. It is like white clothes just returned from the laundry. If you dip them in red dye, they will be red. If you dip them in blue or green, they will be blue or green. They will take only the color you dip them in, whatever it may be. The mind is everything. Bondage is of the mind, and freedom is also of the mind. A person is free if he constantly thinks, I am a free soul. How can I be bound? Whether I live in the world or in the forest, I am a child of God, the King of kings. Who can bind me? If bitten by a snake, a man may get rid of its venom by saying emphatically, there is no poison in me. In the same way, by repeating with grit and determination, I am not bound, I am free, one really becomes so. One really becomes free. So this is that state of grace where we dwell with our eyes open, where we dwell in that state of grace of the jnani or the vijnani, where we don't feel any bondage in the midst of all of this, even in the midst of dwelling with this mind. We feel that we're ever free, that we're ever perfect. This was a tremendous emphasis that was given by Swamiji, that we have to keep telling ourselves over and over again until, he says, until it courses through our veins. He's a beautiful language he uses, till we really feel that no matter what little ups and downs may take place in the mind, that I am something beyond, that that divine presence within is my real nature and my real self, that we only have to realize that. So Swamiji says, we are ever free if we would believe it. Only have faith enough. You are the soul, free and eternal, ever free, ever blessed. Have faith enough, and you will be free in a minute. Everything in time, space, and causation is bound. The soul is beyond all time, all space, all causation. That which is bound is nature, not the soul. Therefore, proclaim your freedom and be what you are, ever free, ever blessed. So this is that state of grace that can remain with us at all times. We have that realization. This will be something that is our permanent treasure. This, whether we can attain to that state where the mind is so perfectly free and quiet and calm that we enter into some type of higher meditative state, samadhi or something like that, we don't know if that can happen or not. But if we can reach that state of grace of the mind where we can observe things, where we cannot be too attached to things, where we can feel that divine presence at all times, we have to understand that this is the grace of the mind. So I think this is really a very beautiful teaching that we get from Sri Ramakrishna. And as I said in the beginning, it should give us a little sense of humility and a sense of gratitude. The humility that the moment that we think that we're safe and free and everything is up to us, so we can do everything on our own, that we know this mind can come back and can haunt us. And a sense of gratitude when the mind is our friend, that we know that this is the grace of the mind and grace of God, we can say. So let me stop here, and we can try to sit quietly for a few minutes.